The Pacific Ocean is even bigger than we imagine. If you were to drill a hole straight through the Earth from Chile's coast, you would still end up in the Pacific Ocean on the other side. Our world has a total of 5 oceans, and the largest among them is the Pacific Ocean, covering a staggering 165 million square kilometers. To put this into perspective, the total land area of Earth is just 148 million square kilometers. This means that even if we remove the other 4 oceans, the Pacific Ocean alone is larger than all of Earth's mountains, deserts, forests, and islands combined. Within this vast ocean, there are only a few small islands, so tiny that they appear as mere dots on a map. What's even more astonishing is that most of these islands have never been stepped on by humans. In simple terms, if someone gets lost in the Pacific Ocean, their chances of being found are almost zero. But today you will hear the real-life story of a man who got lost in the Pacific Ocean on a tiny boat. Not for 10 or 15 days, but for an incredible 438 days. Yes, this man accidentally set a world record, a record no one would ever want to break. The world record for surviving alone at sea for the longest time was made by José Salvador Alvarenga, who spent 438 days stranded in the ocean, surviving on a tiny 7-foot boat. But the real question is, how did he stay alive for 14 months in the middle of the ocean? Before we get to that, let's first understand how he ended up there in the first place. This story takes place in 2012, in a small Mexican village called Costa Azul. José Salvador Alvarenga was 36 years old at the time and was an experienced fisherman. On November 17, 2012, José set off on a fishing trip with his partner Ezequiel Córdoba in a small boat. Their plan was to stay at sea for just 30 hours, so they didn't carry much food or supplies. Their tiny 7-foot boat had only one engine and a small refrigerator to store fish. José had no idea that the next 438 days would become the worst days of his life. They traveled 120 kilometers from the Mexican coast and set their fishing nets into the water. But just then, a terrifying storm struck. To save their lives, they abandoned their fishing nets and rushed back toward the shore. For 6 hours, they kept the boat moving at full speed. By 6 a.m., they were just 20 kilometers from shore, and they could see their village in the distance. They had escaped the storm, but their luck ran out. Just 20 kilometers from safety, their boat's engine failed. Now they had no oars and no sail to control their direction. However, they had a radio, so they quickly sent their location to their boss and waited for a response. But what happened next was every fisherman's worst nightmare. As they waited for help, their radio's battery died. Now José and his partner had completely lost contact with the outside world. While they were still in shock, something even worse happened. Strong winds pushed their boat back into the ocean. The shore they could see earlier slowly disappeared. Back on land, their boss formed a search team and started looking for them in the Pacific Ocean. But it was too late. After just 5 days, their boat had drifted 450 kilometers away from the coast. Now they were in the middle of the ocean, with nothing but water in every direction. They knew their boat was too small to be seen from far away. They had no flares to signal for help, and no fire to create smoke signals. It was now clear to José and his partner that their chances of survival were less than 1%. The food and water they brought with them had already run out, so they started catching birds that landed on their boat and eating them raw. They also caught small fish around the boat to eat for survival. Drinking salt water would kill them, so they started collecting rainwater in plastic bottles floating in the sea. But when it didn't rain for days, they were forced to drink turtle blood or the fluid inside fish to stay alive. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Their mental torture was unimaginable. Finally, on the 124th day, José's partner gave up. On May 4, 2013, Ezequiel Córdoba died by suicide. Now José was completely alone in his tiny boat, drifting in the endless ocean. By now, José had drifted 8,000 kilometers across the Pacific Ocean. One day, he spotted a cargo ship in the distance. For the first time in 6 months, he saw hope. He waved his hands, shouted, and signaled desperately, but the ship did not see him. José watched in horror as the only chance of rescue disappeared. By January 2014, after 14 months, José had drifted near an island. He noticed coconuts floating in the water, which meant land was nearby. Fearing he might drift past it, he jumped into the water and swam toward the island. After 14 months, José finally set foot on land. On the island, he found a small hut with a local man inside. For the first time in 438 days, José made contact with another human. This was a remote island in the Marshall Islands called Eben Atoll. Jose had drifted 11,000 kilometers from his starting point. If he had missed this tiny island, his next stop would have been the Philippines, 5,000 kilometers away. Jose was soon rescued and sent back home, but when he arrived, another problem awaited him. After publishing his book, 438 Days, he was accused of killing his partner. Yes, the same partner who had taken his own life in the middle of the ocean. I hope you found this story incredible and inspiring. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share. Thanks for your love and support. See you in the next amazing episode.